I hate to break bad news to you, but it's entirely possible you're just a living stereotype, and it will take you leaving home to a different country to help you figure out how truly basic you are. To help you avoid making the same mistakes I did, these are 3 lessons I've learned as an American who lived in Madrid, is back visiting New York City, who grew up in Philadelphia. Let's begin.
1. You can find balance in life without risking the dreams you have. In case you didn't grow up in suburbia Pennsylvania, let me break it down for you what it's like going to school. You, based on your IQ, fall into a couple different categories, and these categories are so generously bestowed upon everyone by the smartest kids in school. At the top tier, you have the smartest kids. These are the kids that always end with an A, always end with the highest GPA, and are always the one that makes everything a bit of a competition when it comes to academics. Right below them, you have the jocks, the theater kids, people that are in the public eye, and have either gained a favor with the teachers, the community, or all of the students based on something that they've done. This could be like run for student president, be the class clown, things that just get you notoriety. A tier below that is the regular kids. This is where most people fell into the mix. And then the final tier was the slack-off kids. These were the kids that were literally not putting in the work for school because they didn't care about it, and this for us didn't give them respect. Now obviously I'm leaving out a lot of different groups because these were the top 4, but hopefully you can get this idea of a sort of hierarchy within the schooling system. Now I'm 22 right now. You may be wondering what this has to do with being an adult, but let me show you. When you grow up in a super competitive environment, you start to look at the world through the eyes of competition. You start to look to see who has more, who's doing more, and who's accomplished more. And therefore it seems like you're always in this constant battle of keeping up with the Joneses. The concept in which if your neighbor buys something cool, like a sports car, then you either need to buy the same sports car or a slightly better version. You always need to keep up with the next guy over. And this doesn't just end in childhood. This follows you to your adult life, because you start to associate life as just this big competition and not actually something exciting, worth living and working for. Instead of life being this collection of possibilities, potentials, dreams, everything that basically spiritual or religious people will tell you that it is, it starts to become this highly individualistic game in which you need to compete to see if you're good enough in order to win. It's part of the reason that I think us in the US have such an individualistic mentality. We were born to compete and therefore we have to look out for ourselves. But living in Spain was the exact freaking opposite. Because in the US, we have this more individualistic mentality, but in Spain, it's all family oriented. Even the most hungry people that I knew, the most successful entrepreneurs, businessmen, CEOs, they would always take Sunday off to have the hallowed family lunch. And this wasn't just for a certain time of the year, and they didn't do it with resentment. They genuinely looked forward to those Sunday dinners or those Sunday lunches. And this was such a new novel concept for me. Not only because I never did that with my family, so it was really nice to see it in other people, but because for the first time in my life, I was seeing these fantastic people living these amazing lives, taking time for themselves. It was almost this novel concept that it's okay to take a breath, it's okay to breathe. You're still able to complete everything you want to in life without having to sacrifice what it is that you're after. Number 2, I'm done with envy. There was always this kind of envy that I had for other people and their things. I can't explain it, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't sound nice, I hate having to admit it. But I started to associate when people were wearing nicer things, when people had nicer things, like watches, rings, clothes, it meant they had more. I would then look up the prices of all those different things, see the collective sum total of what they were wearing, and notice that it's either the entirety of my bank account or it would be a year's worth of salary. I could never actually wrap my head around how this is all possible. And when I was a kid, I was a bit more cynical than I am now. I always just chalked it up to, it's for them, it's not for me. It was always this vicious cycle I found myself falling into because it was almost like I was noticing my envy everywhere. I was hanging out with wealthier friends, they had nicer things, and I always found myself in rooms with really wealthy people, but I never had the wealth myself. So before going to Spain, I would look at that opportunity, being in that room with all those people, as just this cosmic joke of, haha, you're here, you have to watch everyone having a better life than you. And it was almost like I wasn't supposed to be there. Because who am I? What am I doing there? I'm not supposed to be there. And moving to Madrid changed all of that completely. There is this general collective air within the city of everyone's going to dress nice, everyone's going to dress clean. So therefore, it's not okay or acceptable for anyone to be walking around in sweatpants, yoga pants, anything that looks a bit too casual. You can save that for inside the house or if you're going to a certain friend's house and you're walking from point A to point B. But generally speaking, on the all in all, you don't really see it. You see people dressed up, you see people looking nice. Even if they can't afford it, you see them looking their best. And this changed something fundamentally within me because because for the first time in my life, I was actually forced to buy nice things for myself. I had to look presentable to the degree that I took pride in my appearance. It was such a heady concept because growing up, my face was always the outfit. It didn't really matter what I wore, I just wore a big smile, I had a fun attitude, and then there you go, I thought no one noticed. But out in Spain, yeah, people notice. And after doing that dance for 2 years of buying things to keep up with the fashion, looking at what other people are doing and getting inspired by their looks, you start to just forget about envy. It turns more into either an appreciation for what the other person has been able to curate or a source of inspiration of, ooh, that looks really cool, I can't afford that right now, but I'm gonna get that next paycheck, or I'm gonna get that next whatever. This has just been my experience, maybe yours will differ, but I've brought that back here to the US, and it's why I started this video so excited about showing you this bag. This is the first ever nice bag I've let myself own in my entire life. Because going back to this idea of envy, I would always see people walking down the streets holding their beautiful big bags. Their huge Louis Vuitton, their beautiful YSL, the Dior, the Chanel, the everything, and I never had it. I would do, as I said, look at the price range, see that it was way out of my budget, and just look at it as it's meant for those people, it's not meant for me. And then this brand comes along. It's stylish, it's slick, I can open it by doing that. I've never done that before. And suddenly I find myself catching glimpses of what I look like with this bag next to me in reflections on the street or the mirror of my home as I'm walking by. And I like the person that I see. I like that she takes so much pride in herself and has so much respect for herself that she allows herself to have a bag like this. That doesn't pity herself because she's not able to afford a Louis Vuitton, but because she did her due diligence and looked into a brand that meets her where she's at and is happy with the option that she found. And if you couldn't see the logo, this is a Teddy Blake bag. So I'll leave the information of this exact bag in the description below, just in case you want to look at any of their other bags. Me personally, I started developing a real interest and curiosity in Italian fashion, Italian design, because when I was au pairing in the Netherlands, my co-au pair was basically all but obsessed with Italian everything. So when I found the Teddy Blake brand and I saw that it was Italian craftsmanship, premium leather, etc., I was just like, this is my brand, this is my bag. I'm happy that I'm able to find so much quality in something that is literally a fraction of the price. I view it as a steal. And it really helps you put into perspective or see in real time that moving abroad shows you what your priorities really are and helps you shift them. And finally, number 3, I like being creative. This may be your experience too. Growing up, I was always super involved in theater. I loved being in the spotlight, learning my lines, bringing life into a character. I thought it was so fun. But as I got older, I started to hear phrases like the struggling artist or the struggling actor. Even Joey and Friends, one of my favorite TV shows, was portraying the exact lifestyle of this kind of person. And that scared me. Because if you haven't learned anything from this video, if you're growing up from a place of scarcity or not having, you're going to start to associate it with every area in life and anticipate the worst. So what this ended up looking like for me, which unfortunately has been the reality for so many people that I know, has been between choosing from my passion and from the pursuit of money. On a personal note, I don't need the buku bucks, I don't need to be a billionaire, but I always wanted to be able to have enough money to find a house that I really loved, designed exactly how I liked, in the location in which I preferred, and have the finances to furnish it exactly how I please. If I am able to do that, I've won. I have no idea what this number will look like because prices are changing with inflation all the time, but roughly speaking, it's looking to be around 3-4 million. And yes, I'm absolutely nowhere near that right now, but it helps put into perspective, okay, I only need this much money and then I'm good. I don't have to always be chasing the endless ladder of I need 5 or I need 6 or I need 15,297. Who cares? But anyways, having this framework of, okay, I need this much money in order to actually truly have the thing that I want, it helped give me a sort of guideline of how I wanted to live my life. Yes, of course, it was developed by that competitive edge we spoke about earlier, but the sum goal boiled down to how am I going to make this money so that I can have my dream house? And this is where the divide came into play. On the one hand, I always loved anatomy and physiology. I loved learning about it in school. I even made my own anatomy and physiology course as an extracurricular for my high school. I shadowed in hospitals, did a dual degree with a tech school down the street from us, and then I went to the University of Pittsburgh as a pre-med student studying neuroscience. In my mind, I took the Hippocratic Oath, I was looking at myself being a neurosurgeon, and I had this vision of what my life would be like, who I would become, all these wonderful, beautiful things that would eventually lead me to making enough money to buying my house. However, something I did not anticipate was getting the opportunity to go to Spain. As I previously mentioned in another video, I was one of those people that bought the $5,000 courses from the online entrepreneurs, but I actually got the opportunity to work with them. So quite literally within the span of a week, I went from being a neuroscience student just on my summer vacation to literally a college dropout starting in sales in Madrid, Spain. It was the most drastic 180 shift, and instead of being rewarded for my type A brain of looking, diagnosing, and treating, I had to tap into my type B brain that I had been suppressing for over a decade. Things like organizing a spreadsheet or doing mundane activities weren't really rewarded here. I was to create content and do well in sales. That meant I needed to get better at my people skills, I needed to get better at my bedside manners, I needed to get much better at my conflict resolution skills, and I needed to open up my creative brain. All within the span of 2 days after I moved out there. As you can imagine, it went terribly. And I would go so far as to say for the first year of my actual creative journey out in Spain, I freaking hated it. I thought I wasn't a creative person, I thought I had no good ideas, I thought my personality was terrible, I could never gain any people skills. And then one day, I just stopped thinking that. I took a trip up to Amsterdam, as one does, had my epiphanies, as one does, and met some really cool people doing wild things with their life that showed me there is no one right path. And it was at a point in life where you're always learning these super valuable lessons exactly when you need them. And this was at a crossroads where I was considering, am I just the complete dropout loser who left behind an amazing field to pursue something that I wasn't even sure about in the first place? Or did I choose the actual right path for me? Because ever since I was a kid, I've been wanting to do what I'm doing right now, and I'm just not giving it my all to actually make it proper and sustainable. Obviously, I chose path B. And again, Spain was instrumental in this role, not just because it literally took me moving to Madrid in order to rediscover my creative side, but because traveling from Madrid to the Basque Country or to Barcelona or to Granada, I was meeting so many different people, living so many different lives. Some were successful, some weren't as, but all were happy. And it showed me that it is completely possible to live a life so separate from what you thought it would be without it qualifying you as a loser. It may sound too harsh, and I admit in the beginning I was so freaking rough on myself, but it's something that honestly just comes with time. So I'm not really sure how I'll end this video, but I will leave you with this thought that I've been thinking about for the past couple of days. If you are thinking of traveling or moving to a different country, a different city for that matter, and you're wondering who you're gonna be, what you're gonna be like, consider this. You, as you know yourself right now, are the sum total collection of everything you've come to learn about how you think life should be. Look into the culture of the new place that you're going to. Look into the new job description, and then take a look at yourself. Are you who you want to be, or are you just your city stereotype? I'll be thinking on that.